Good, at least he okayed it.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Newman City Council regular meeting, October 22nd, 2019. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance for the flag and remain standing for the invocation. Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you remain standing, please? Our thought for the day is acts of kindness ripple throughout the world. Let's pray. Most gracious Father, we thank you for the opportunity to serve our community tonight. We ask your blessings on this meeting in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mary. Could we have roll call, please?
Councilman McDonald?
Here.
Graham?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Candia?
Here.
Day?
Here.
Mayor Martino?
Here. Okay, item 6, ceremonial matters. We have a presentation tonight by Stan Cog regarding Measure L. Rosa, you're going to make the presentation.
Hey, Rosa.
For having us, Mayor and council members. And I just wanted to introduce Karen Kinsey, who's actually going to do this wonderful presentation.
Okay.
She's our wonderful finance manager at Stancog. But I also wanted to thank you all and your citizens here of the city of Newman for the passage of Measure L, because without that support, we would not be here today. And I want to thank your city manager and also Catherine, who have been always involved in a good partners with Stancog. So thank you all. And Karen's going to give you a presentation that will show you what you all have been doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Have you noticed how nice our roads are?
Beautiful.
Good evening, members of the City Council. Thank you for allowing us to come tonight and make this presentation to you. We consider this really good news. I don't know how to get it to mine. There we go. Measure L is the half-cent sales tax for Stanislaus County that was designated for transportation improvements. And the measure spans 25 years, beginning in April of 2017 through March 21st of 2042. Fiscal year 17-18 was the first full year that Measure L has been in effect, and Stancog received its first distribution on June 23rd of 2017. Through the first few months of the measure, Stancog staff developed and implemented the master funding agreements and the member agencies for Stanislaus County to ensure that the requirements outlined in the ordinance were being followed. In February of 2018, the first Measure L checks were distributed to compliant jurisdictions, and by June of 2018, all agencies were compliant and they were all receiving their funding. In April of 2018, Stancog contracted with Hudson Henderson and Company to conduct the Measure L audits for each of the member agencies. So all of the agencies that were receiving Measure L funds were all of our city, the county, Stancog, and MOVE. The audit process began in August of 2018, and the auditors worked with each member agency to review documents and to prepare individual audits for each agency as required by the ordinance. Audits were completed in April of 2018, and disclosures that the auditors provided said that they were neutral, consistent, and clear, and that there were no findings or issues that were noted. So that was very good news. We were happy to hear that all of our agencies were compliant. The audit was in accordance with the ordinance, and it covered expenditures, maintenance of effort, reporting, and administrative limits. The citizens' oversight for the Measure L is mandated by the ordinance to review the administrative process for compliance and to review the annual audits. In April, Stancog staff provided a compliance report for fiscal year 17-18, and each member was provided with a comprehensive report of their respective jurisdictions, which included copies of the year's financial reporting, maintenance of effort, and their project lists. Stancog staff also developed the Measure L website for individual pages for each of our jurisdictions, where the reports are updated every quarter. All agencies were found to be in compliance. And the Measure L Oversight Committee then directed Craig Lewis, their committee chair, to issue a favorable report to the Stancog Policy Board for fiscal year 17-18. In fiscal year 17-18, the city of Newman received $362,204 in total Measure L funds, and they spent $418,000, leaving a negative cash balance in their books of $55,918. And the reason behind the negative balance is because the city's desire to provide a prioritized project, they front-loaded these projects to be sure that their repaving was going well in advance, and that is to be commended to the city of Newman. You guys have done an excellent job with that. You took a real proactive approach, and we're very happy and proud that you guys were able to do that. So I'd like to take this opportunity to commend the city of Newman on a good report, and StanCog appreciates the efforts of your staff. They've been very responsive when we've asked for any kind of documentation, and we've had a very good working relationship, as Rosa mentioned earlier. We'd also like to acknowledge and thank Walter Waite, Newman's representative on the Measure L Oversight Committee. The committee has spent a great deal of time carefully reviewing the documents and have paid close attention to ensure that the policies being followed were consistent with the ordinance. So we very much appreciate their time as well. And StanCog does have a website where you can see all things Measure L, and that is stanislasmeasurel.com. So that concludes my report this evening, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Any questions from the council?
No, I'd just like to say thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Walt, for assisting the city of Newman.
Thank you. MOVE is our CTSA, our Consolidated Transportation Services Agency, and they help with transportation support and program support for the disabled, the veterans, and the seniors. And they do have a website. If you're interested and you need that kind of assistance, you can let me know, and I can get that to you.
They have volunteer opportunities and that kind of thing?
They do, actually. Yes, they do. They'd be happy to hear from you.
They are our door-to-door service, so people that can't traditionally use transit, that's a service that you can actually go to.
They also provide travel training, too, for anyone who's not able to use the bus system on their own, which is also a very good service. So.
Well, thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Appreciate the report. Thank you,
Thank you.
Rosa.
Rosa, thank you.
Thank you for coming all the way to Newman, beautiful Newman.
Pleasure to be here.
With that,
Enjoy our nice streets.
yeah, we're so proud of them, and we have some pretty smart people that were able to figure out the way to make it happen, you know, and
They're right there.
And, yeah, a lot of people don't understand that it wouldn't have been much for a project, but we made it into a bigger project, and it made it a lot more interesting to contractors to come in and repair the road, so.
And cheaper, too.
Yeah, that's right.
May I say this too, Mayor, is that all this reflects back on city management. We have, I think, the best city manager in the valley. With his staff, this city is on the move. And thanks to Mike.
Okay, with that, I'm going to move on to item 7, is items from the public, non-agenda items. If anyone would like to speak to the council, please go to the podium, state your name and address of the record.
Hi, my name is Martin Dykmans. I live on Canyon Creek Drive. I've been a citizen since 2003. What I wanted to bring to the council's attention is it seems like we're having some noise issues in this town where neighbors feel it's okay to make all the noise they want all night. And then when the police come out, they either don't come out, don't say anything, or anyway, the noise doesn't stop. So what we were interested in was possibly getting a little quieter neighborhood.
This is over around Canyon Creek.
I think it's the whole area, because I put a poll in the Nextdoor app, which is something that you can have on your computer and whatnot. Anyway, the poll About all I can do is show you my phone. The question of the poll was, would you like the Newman Police to start taking the noise ordinance more seriously? And for that, we got 66 votes total, 74% yes, 18% no, and 8% that they said yes, and I'm willing to attend the city council meeting tonight.
Okay.
So anyway, I was wondering, is it possible for the police to maybe take complaints a little bit more seriously? And so I know a lot of us have to work the next day. Right now, my neighbors are pretty good, but I had a neighbor several years ago that partied quite a few nights per week. They like to do it in the backyard. They were directly behind me. They had speakers. They're back there smoking weed, which, I mean, doesn't bother me that much, but it was illegal then.
Still is.
Yeah. And I really didn't get very much, it never ended.
Yeah.
I started out by, looking over the fence and I mean, they're on the other side. I know all my neighbors around, I know all my neighbors around me, and I really don't have too many problems with anyone, but this was 3 young men in their 20s, and they played rap music loud. It had a lot of profanity in it, and it was very disturbing to my wife in particular, and I tried, calling over the fence to them, hey, can you turn it down? And, oh, yeah, sure, and then they turn it back up 5 minutes later. And then the last time I asked them, they actually turned it up louder and laughed at me. So then I started calling the police, and I think, I don't know, you have to look back. This is probably, I want to say 5 or 6 years ago. There's probably records from the police coming out for that, and very rarely would anything change. And it got to a point where I just, try and sleep with a pillow over my head. And I don't know, I think, I come from the Bay Area. I'll freely admit it. I grew up in Campbell. I'm older than I look, so when I grew up there, Campbell was actually very much like here. It was all orchards. It was about 10,000 population. I didn't really have these problems there. I didn't live on the whole place the whole time, obviously, but, other than, say, apartment buildings and things like that, you expect it to be a little noisier than some places. But residential neighborhoods, we all work at different hours. Some people even work on the weekend and whatnot, so there's really no good time that people can have a big bash. And, I mean, the least they could do is come around and say, hey, I'm going to be making a bunch of noise, next Friday night or whatever like that. But that doesn't really happen too much. I mean, a few of my neighbors have told me and invited me and stuff too. So it's like, that's good. But I mean, at other times when you're just not prepared to hear that all night and be kept awake, and you start to, wonder about why that is. So I was just wondering if maybe the police could be a little more active in their talking to people.
We can't act on anything you bring to us tonight, but we can certainly turn in your complaint and take a look at it. There's noise abatement in the city of Newman, and there is restrictions, and it seems like it's excessive, and something should have been done. So let us take a look at it, and then
I'll talk to the chief of police and the lieutenant and
make a
remind
serious
them.
effort.
Yeah, I'll remind them that we do have a code, It does need to be
Yeah.
fully enforced, and
Yeah.
I understand what the gentleman is talking about every once in a while. I think most people put up with it if something happens, someone has a party every once in a while, but when it's pretty consistent every week or multiple times a month, it gets really old really fast, and so,
Absolutely.
and people shouldn't have to live with that. They should be able to, get their rest and relaxation when they need it. So I'll have that conversation with the chief and the lieutenant and making sure that the sergeants and the officers on the street are applying this thing forthwith.
What is the code, Mike?
I don't have the code right in front of me, so I can't really tell you. But anytime someone calls in a complaint, you need to go out and get it checked out, and so,
And the code number, or what is
No,
it?
no. Thank you very much for
Yeah, we
bringing that
appreciate you coming
information
forward.
to us.
And no one should have to put up with noises like that.
and ma'am, we'll get it researched, and we'll make sure the officers know tomorrow.
May I,
Yeah, this is a public comment period.
thank you, sir.
That's the 9.30.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for your time. I have a 10-minute presentation that I was
Would you
preparing.
state,
Yes,
would you
sir.
state your name
Yes.
and address,
Dev
please?
Moran on Canyon Creek also. I had contacted the Matos newspaper regarding submitting information about a community interest item for noise reduction and some issues people are a little bit concerned about with speed, possibly, speed limits, possibly by the youth in the area. And so they also promote on westsideconnect.com that they have an ongoing interest in all news about our community. So this is something I prepared by myself. I haven't prepared newspaper articles before. Obviously, I would have to submit, and there would be effect of, less wordiness or who knows. But this is a less than 10-minute presentation I'd like to just share with you. Have you considered noise lately? Some may miss out on the Matos newspaper publishing attention to this public interest matter in the West Side Index, so you may want extra copies to share with neighbors and/or discussions with neighbors about what the article says about neighborhoods seeking noise and speed enforcement. Most of us do not represent others, but all of us represent the community, since that is what all of us are together, a community. Nextdoor.com had a string of more than 75 comments on the subject title of music at all hours by the community. Motorcycle, trucks, and cars with modified exhaust systems sound even louder if you crank the speed up. Radios turn to ear-damaging loudness, leaf blowers requiring users to wear earplugs, musical bands on deafening sound, and stereos turned up high get the job done for some city dwellers, and are way out of a line according to others. Construction equipment and workers for weeks or months on end, and many more methods are making disturbing noise around towns all over the world. The one thing people rely on is that when they need sleep, the noisemakers will quiet down. If it gets into the wee hours of nighttime or too early in the morning, residents rely on good neighbors and/or city ordinances to keep the peace and quiet during certain hours. People wanting things to be faster, louder, and more noise-making in so many ways may not always pay attention to city ordinances or laws. You might think it's your right to have life out loud, and no one is going to change that for you. The truth is, it's everyone's right to have things in moderation in neighborhoods, since they are places of rest, home life raising young families, retirement living spaces for the elderly, and a lot more. Neighborhoods are a mix for all types of lifestyles, and while you wouldn't want an ongoing party next door with outdoor loud music and loads of cars everywhere all the time, they do happen periodically. Instances such as noise in the neighborhood from cars, speeding in busy school zones, dogs running loose causing a stir, or left alone outdoors too long, and excessive loud parties in the neighborhood continue to be noisy trouble zone items in cities everywhere, and so on it goes. Out in the world, you are on the move with noise, either when you drive by making your pipes scream, or when you are watering outside and the same thing happens. The driver may never be aware of all the people offended and annoyed, and in part that may be the plan all along, and why modifications are made to vehicles to make them louder, or sometimes why the music is played so loud in cars and at home, simply to be annoying, or drown out all else. I was at the Los Banos Chamber of Commerce Tomato Fest a week ago as a volunteer for Habitat for Humanity West Side, and they had a live band there on stage. I could not hear it 5 booths down. Some of the parties with the live mariachi bands in Newman homes can be heard all the way across town. How loud they are right next door is very intense. You walk by and think, in that tiny area, what are those people doing to all their eardrums? Obviously, if it's okay for the people inside not to think about their own well-being as the party roars on, the last thing on their minds is their neighbor's well-being. It is a necessary component of being in the neighborhood, as it turns out. The well-being of the neighborhood is the neighborhood. It's going to matter to a number of residents if that well-being gets disturbed. One other thing that was loud and clear at the Tomato Fest in Los Banos was when one of the employees of a leading sponsor at Kokomi explained to me that the Tomato Fest has been operated in the Los Banos Chamber of Commerce for 10 years now, and it practically runs itself. That's part of how neighborhoods feel best, when everyone is in sync and the proper protocols run themselves, which actually means people manage themselves and make appropriate choices together for a smooth overall outcome. When things get a little off, it's a good idea to offer help or suggestions directly before calling in complaints. When adults can't work with each other, things get really out of hand, since the whole aim of adulthood is working together towards a better tomorrow, and that work gets done by starting today. Some things to consider in the Newman City Ordinance on noise. 1, loudness, intensity of the sound. 2, pitch, frequency of the sound, that is very low bass or high screech. 3, duration of the sound. 4, time of day. 5, necessity of noise, that is garbage collecting, etc. And the last is background noise, and that is Ordinance 2007-11. There are sections, and on it goes. There have been some major complaints that are headed to City Council in a meeting with regards to noise enforcement and speed enforcement, especially the speeding and running stop signs on Canyon Creek Drive, Duck Blind Circle, Red Lion Way, and more for the comfort and safety of our families and residents in the community of the City of Newman. Many people showed up at the Town Council meeting. People that don't feel quite enough response to noise and speed problems is carried through to manage actual complaints that are made through the Police Department of Newman. When residents do not function within respectful parameters and won't heed suggestions or warnings, people are concerned that without proper citation measures and enforcement, some of Newman's citizens are unable to keep within the city governances for noise and speed. This promotes a chronic reoffender issue for some areas of town. Many concerned citizens would like to suggest that enforcement of noise offenders specifically requires a notice warning be left on doors when police officers' response to noise complaints are unanswered and issued on every call. It is also considered appropriate handling to keep a record of the number of offenses noticed or calls on the same noise complaint event and or address. That would allow for a proper citation with fines to be issued to contain the problem within a certain number of noise infractions in a timely manner. To the matter at hand, the actual offender managing themselves within city and fellow resident expectations is the goal, without everyone else having to spend their time managing someone else's offenses. While there has been a time of great sorrow for the police officers in our city with the loss of a young professional among them, they have had a lot to deal with, as any of us do in managing bereavement. It is understood inner workings may always be needed on other parameters of police office protocols that bring reevaluation and safety for police officers of the exact and real management and dangers of their profession and protection of the city. Problems crop up all over the land in marriages, in cities, in daycares, and that is the norm. These suggestions are made in a desperation by some residents worried about their lifestyles and protocols also needing attention. This is not a campaign to change as much as it is a recall of the common practice to curtail misconduct among law-abiding home dwellers who can need a little instigating sometimes to get with the neighborhood programs for respect and happy home life for all. Speeding issues are the same everywhere, and police officers stake out an area of high-volume complaints or infractions and get things under control in that area. This just as it picks up dangerously in another area. The lack of consideration for outcomes and risks is the problem of the drivers who speed, and everyone else has to expose concern and take action to once again slow down the pace around town. This is not to make light of serious dangers and harms that befall innocent citizens when foolishness is exercised while operating a moving vehicle. It is to say, will it ever stop? Ever. It gets curtailed, and that is the way currently in place to manage speeding in residential areas. Speed bumps are as much an inconvenience and nuisance as they are a help. Speed bumps are a costly measure also when city reserves need to always be maintained for real emergencies that can ruin a small town that is unprepared. Sometimes required in serious danger to city dwellers, speed bumps fend off speeding in one area and can move it right on to another if other forms of correction are not utilized. The whole town cannot be speed bumped, or we might as well all just walk instead. There are no reported 2019 driving infractions within local resident limits that have caused death or serious injury. It is important to pay attention to your friends and family youth that takes responsibility to curtail their speeding as well. Slowing the pace starts at home, and we all know how hard that can be. Thinking the City of Newman or the police department have a magic wand to make people problems go away is like thinking any of us have that in dealing with all these problems also. Remembering that problems in the community mostly will come from families in the community is another factor to curtailing the inappropriate actions. So action does start at home with the work of families making changes also. Any parent or group thereof, I believe from my years of school volunteerism, can be a volunteer at high schools and or promote an assembly or rally discussion or driver safety and or noise pollution. Suggest a walkathon to sponsor community awareness of safety issues. Get the kids involved too and make posters, handouts, and volunteer badges for the upcoming event. As much as we want the community to be to our liking, we need to all like ourselves within the community. It's not just the person not turning down the loud music who is doing nothing about the problem. We all can do something about the problem if it matters enough to us and we take the time to help. Turning over the problem to someone else is not always help. One thing Habitat for Humanity Westside has taught me is getting involved is the key to real help. Complaining for someone else to fix it is a method, but help comes from all avenues of life. So try it, get involved yourself, and maybe others will also want to help with you. Those are just my humble introspectives watching this online saga of the noise and speed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak to the council? Please go to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sophia Petrakis at the Public Library on 1305 Kern Street. And I finally brought some examples of some of the crafts we've been doing for you guys. Today we made piñatas, and they were filled with candy, of course. I left the top open so you can kind of see the construction a little bit. So I'll pass that around. You can take a peek.
Is there any candy in there?
No, I might have eaten it all. It was so delicious. And I also have some examples from the Sugar School craft we did for teens and adults, along with November program, part of our Harry Potter party. We have a little ID card. What I wish I would have brought an example of is that nature print paper I kept going on about in the last couple meetings. I don't have any examples, but you can check out the Friends of the Library Facebook page and see the kids making some. Okay, so I have November planned out that I'd like to share with you guys. We are doing another riddle of the month. This month, the riddle is, I can be a sweet potato or an apple. I can be warm or cold. But this one is for sure, I am delicious and loved by many. So bring your answer to the library in November for your prize. For programs, we have on Wednesdays, story time at 10, we move and play at 10:30. On Tuesday, November 5th, we have a cartoon flip book, where you have like a pad of paper and you draw a little stick figure in different positions and you flip it and it shows the sequence. We also have our Friends of the Library meeting at 6 o'clock. On November 9th, this one's a Saturday, we have card making. One of our community members, Sarah Rhodes, is going to show us some different styles and tricks to make beautiful cards so we can impress our family members during the holidays. And on November 12th, we have Read to a Dog. Pause for Friends, I believe. They are bringing a couple of their dogs, and kids get to read to them. And we have Daisy and Morgan, 2 little tiny dogs. So I'm pretty excited about that. We love animals. And then on November 19th, we have our Hogwarts Fall Party. We're going to have games, activities, food. We're going to have candy, butterbeer. I don't know how many of you are Harry Potter fans, but we have an imitation butterbeer to try out with, it's cream soda, butterscotch syrup, ice cream, and on top we have whipped cream and then gold sprinkles. And just a reminder, we are closed for Thanksgiving. And I think that's all I have for the library today.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
You continue to do a great job there. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the public that would like to speak to the council? Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, I lost my place, but that's okay. I know I'm in Newman, so I'm okay. Okay, we're moving on to the consent calendar, which is item 8. Waive all readings of ordinance and resolution except by title. B, approval of warrants. C, approval of minutes of the October 8th, 2019 meeting.
With that, we approve the consent calendar as read.
And I'll second that.
Okay, a motion's been made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 5-0. Thank you. Number 9 is public hearing. A, second reading and adoption of ordinance 2019 next number, an ordinance amending Title 7 Fire Regulations, the Newman Municipal Code, and adopting by reference the California Code of Regulations, Title 24, Part 9, 2019 edition of the California Fire Code, and authorizing staff to publish a summary of said ordinance. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the second reading and public hearing for the adoption of amendments to Title VII Fire Regulation. The amendments were introduced at the October 8th meeting. No written comments have been received at this point. I can answer any questions you may have before you conduct the public comment.
Okay, well, then we're going to open up to the public for any comments they may have. So if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this item, please go to the podium, state your name and address for the record. There being none, I'm bringing it back to the council for direction.
I move for the approval of the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2019 next in number, an ordinance amending Title VII Fire Regulations of the Newman Municipal Code and adopting by reference the California Code of Regulations, Title 24, Part 9, 2019 edition of the California Fire Code and authorizing the staff to publish a summary of said ordinances.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried 5-0. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Item B, second reading and adoption ordinance 2019, next number, ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newman, amending Title 11, Public Ways and Property, and Title 6, Subdivisions, Section 11.06, Sewerage Systems, and Section 6.02, Minimum Condition of Subdivision Approval of the Newman City Code, and authorizing staff to publish a summary of said ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll take this one. As you know, and as many of the community know, we receive all of our potable water from the groundwater, and we pump it out of the ground and bring it in. The water on the west side is very salty, and so what happens is people will install water softeners at their house to help reduce the impact of the salt on their appliances and on their skin, and then they bathe as they go. What that does, though, it just replaces one salt with another one, and then that concentrated water ends up at our wastewater treatment plant. Our wastewater treatment plant is not designed to handle salt. So in 2018, in April, the California Water Board gave us new requirements for operating our wastewater treatment plant, and under those new orders, they are requiring us to adopt this ordinance. So those sections of the code are attached in your staff report, but basically what they're saying, effective on or prior to January or after January 1st of 2020, people on Newman are no longer allowed to install self-regenerating water softeners at their house. They would have to do a secondary system where it discharges into a tank, and then that tank is then discharged somewhere else. Effective January 1st of 2023, those persons that have self-regenerating water softeners are no longer allowed to replace them with a new self-regenerating water softener. They have to go again to a non-self-regenerating one. Again, it goes into a cartridge or into an additional tank, and then that tank is hauled off and dumped somewhere else. The third component of this ordinance, what it does is any new projects that come in and where a subdivision is vested after January 1st of 2020, the developers are going to be required to install a non-self-regenerating water softener in the house or in the garage, wherever, on the property for that particular unit as part of the condition of their approval. So that way, you're starting the homeowners off with the correct system. And then, that way they're not going out afterwards and trying to buy a self-regenerating water system. Again, these are requirements of the state. If we do not pass this ordinance on this time, we will be found out of compliance with our sewer orders and could be fined on a daily basis. So with that, today we're asking you this is the second reading and potential adoption, and it's also public hearing. So we're asking that you'll open the public hearing first and then bring it back to the council.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to open this up to the public for any comments. Please go to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
How is, Dev Moran, Canyon Creek, how is efficient enforcement of disallowing homeowners in their private garages able to be accomplished of not installing water softeners that are not of a secondary drainage nature?
Yeah, so the installation of a water softener requires that they get a building permit from the building department. There are some public health and safety issues along with that. If you don't have the proper installation and have air gaps in there, you could get mold and bacteria into your house, into your water system, and contaminate your system. So part of it will be, homeowners need to understand the values of it and getting the building permit on it. But we're not going to be able to go inside everyone's garage and do all those things.
90% of people don't get a building permit to install a water softener.
Yeah, I don't know what the
Even
percentage.
know it was necessary unless it was through the vendor.
Yeah, all the vendors and all the people who install them know that
Okay,
California code, building code requires that they get a building permit.
but they probably want to make the sales and.
That doesn't mean that they will.
Right.
But
I've never
as a
installed.
homeowner, it's important for people to understand that if they're not installed correctly, you're putting your health at issue because bacteria could get into your system.
So are you going to make public campaigns of noticing people, or, I mean?
We can
how will
do an article in the newspaper, but ultimately, people the vendors are gonna have to do it, and we'll give them notice as well.
So the water overrides your system and creates problem with the equipment, when it comes in with the extra salt levels or the differing salt levels from what you prepared the equipment?
Yeah, so what's happening is under the self-regenerating one, it takes all the brine, which is all the salt that's pulled out, and discharges it into our sewer system. And then that goes out to our wastewater treatment plant, and the concentration of the salt that arrives out there is very high. Because if you think about all the salt's being pulled out, and there's only a little bit of water that goes in it, so the concentration is really high. And then we land apply that because we use our wastewater after we treat it to farm, and we put it on the land, so then it ends up in the groundwater. And that's what the state's trying to
So
prevent.
my just overlaying thought would be that without incentive of some sort to vendors, or, I mean, an absolute, hay wagon ride with every person in the city, that's going to be very hard to correct.
This is a state ordinance, ma'am, and we have no control over it.
So you're
It's
just
up to
doing
the
what you have
state.
to comply, but you can't necessarily make everyone comply.
Our sewer plant would then be out of compliance, and we're fined thousands and thousands of dollars
Now, what I
every
was
day
thinking
for
was
not
just
complying.
some underlying incentive needs to be.
Well, and most people don't install it themselves, and they have contractors do it, which would have to follow the guidelines. Most contractors do. And then
How
all
long
new.
has that been in place? Because
and-
I've had
and then
three
new-
installed and
this
nobody
is-
ever said a word.
This is coming into place now.
Okay, good to know,
And then going forward, new builds will have the proper system automatically put in place.
which is perfect. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this subject? There being no one, I'm going to bring it back to the council for direction.
Sure. I'll make a motion, we approve the second reading and adoption of ordinance 2019, next number. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newman, amending Title 11, Public Ways and Property, and Title 6 Subdivisions, Section 11.06, Sewage Systems, and Section 6.02, Minimum Conditions of Subdivision Approval of the Newman City Code, and authorizing staff to publish a summary of said ordinance.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 5-0. Thank you. Moving on to item 10, regular business. Adopt resolution number 2019, next number, a resolution authorizing city manager to enter into an agreement with Kennedy Jenkins for engineering bidding services for the Well 10 Hexylvane Chromium CR6 water system project for not to exceed the amount of $44,746.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Catherine.
The item before you will authorize the city manager to continue the Well 10 project. As you all know, Well 10 was drilled this last summer and capped, and we have a 560-foot well out there. So this is the next phase in that project. This will allow Kennedy Jenks who are the design engineers, to prepare the bid documents and then manage all those bids that come in and give us a recommendation to award a bid, which we'll go through the next 2 months in that process. And then an item will be brought to you to award the bid with a recommendation in early next year, along with construction bid services. That'll be the next phase. And I can answer any more questions.
So this service that Kennedy Jenks is providing is to do the engineering for Well 6?
So, no, so this is, this is for Well 10.
I'm 10.
And so the engineering has already been done.
Okay.
And so the next step is to put the project out to bid based on what they've designed.
Got it.
So now it takes effort from the engineers to put it out to bid, handle the documents, manage what comes in, and keep it on a timeline. And so that's what this will do.
Okay, great, thanks.
You're welcome.
That cleared it up.
Okay, with that, I'll open up to regular business to anyone in the audience who would like to speak to the subject. If you have any questions regarding this subject, please. Would you mind just going to the podium and state your name and address for record?
It's all recorded, and anybody listening just can't hear you.
I was just wondering, is hexavalent chromium CR6 a known toxin? Adev Moran, Canyon Creek.
You're welcome. So chromium-6 is a contaminant that's regulated by the state. And during the time when the city started this project, the state had lowered the maximum contaminant level, which is the amount that we're allowed to have in the water and serve the community, to a 10, and one of our wells exceeded that. And so we started the project to develop a well that we could replace the other one with. In the meantime, the state rescinded that decision, and they're considering what maximum contaminant level to bring it to, but now it's currently at 50. But the project name remains the Chromium-6 project, because if the state comes back with a lower MCL, then this in fact will replace the well that has higher than 10 milligrams per liter.
It's
that
important
help?
to remember, too, that well 10 is the well that's located in the northwest quadrant, which will not only supplement our city's current water system, because it will be piped right into it, but will also service that area when it becomes developed. So well 10 is really an important improvement for us to our water system.
I would agree.
Yeah, and both because, Councilmember, it has lower salinity for the salt that we just talked about with water softeners. And we found that the salinity level is lower out there as well as the Chrome 10.
Correct.
So overall water quality in well 10 will be better than the one that we're going to replace, which is well 6.
Good. Thank you,
Any other
Catherine.
questions? You're welcome.
With that, I'll bring it back to the council for direction.
Nothing.
I'll move for adoption of resolution number 2019 next in number, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Kennedy Jenks for engineering bidding services for the well 10 hexavalent chromium CR6 water system project for the not-to-exceed amount of $44,776.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried 5-0. Thank you. We're going to move on to
Thank you.
item 11, items from District 5 Stanislaus County Supervisor, Mr. Jim D. Martini. Jim, welcome tonight.
Good evening, Mayor Martina, members of the council. I just have a few things for you tonight. Although I would, since I'm up here, make a comment about this chromium-6. Just for the record there, the federal standard for chromium-6 is 100 parts per billion. And up until about, a year or two ago, California's standard was 50 parts per billion. And then it went, for some reason, down to 10 parts per billion, which hardly anybody could meet. So the county, because we have these little towns like Crow's Landing that we have to take care of, and Wesley and Grayson. So we did check with the state and find out, why did you lower the chromium-6 level from 50 parts per billion, which is like nothing, down to 10? And we finally were told that, it was because they found a way to test below that now. So they found a test, they could get down to 10 parts per billion, that became the state standard, which is 1/10 the federal standard. So it's created so much havoc up and down the state that they've had to raise it back up to 50. So that's the story of it. It's the incompetent state legislature that actually did that, and cost municipal governments millions of dollars throughout the state for no reason. Just a history there of that. Anyway, and other things, the Healthcare Task Force has just set its health summit for May 28th this year. securing the West Side Theater, thanks to Ally who got that for us. We usually have it in June, but it was already booked up for June, and this is in October. So May 28th works just fine for us. It'll be an evening event, just like the last couple of years, starting at around 5 o'clock or so, 4:30. Anyway, it's securing the theater, now, at least now we're on our way. We can plan the program, get a speaker, and get everything ready for it. The judging of the art and essay contest will be November 8th at the Augustine City Hall. And there we will pick the winners for the art and essay contest and put together our calendar. And then I'll have it ready by about the 1st of December. And we'll distribute it throughout the region and present the awards to the school districts, as they usually have just one meeting in December because of the Christmas break. So we'll have everything ready. So we're kind of on target on that. Tomorrow night, LAFCO will take up the Newman annexation for it's phase 1 of 4 that you have. So that'll be at 6 o'clock tomorrow. And staff is recommending approval, although we have to have a hearing for it. I don't see much in the way of issues there because you've put it out into 4 segments. But anyway, LAFCO will be taking that up tomorrow night. And the CSAC regional group, which is the State Association of Counties, has an 8-county regional group, which Stanislaus County belongs to. It's Central Valley counties, like goes from Kern County to San Joaquin. We'll be having our regional meeting here in Modesto beginning Thursday at noon at the Doubletree. This is something similar to your League of Cities, but it's a regional group of just 8 counties. And each county of the 8-member group rotates the meeting, so we haven't had one in 8 years. So it's our turn this year. We have quite a program on a variety of issues, but one of our speakers is Victor David Hansen, which will be speaking on Thursday evening. On Friday, we'll have the Secretary of Agriculture, Karen Ross, is a speaker, and then we'll be concluding on Friday at noon with Dan Walters, who's a columnist who's published columns for years and years. So, and then we have a variety of issues that we're going to be taking up. So anyway, that starts on Thursday, ends on Friday. And it's been slower there at the county, so that's all I really have for you there. No new parks or anything for funding, but still we're moving along. So if anybody has an interest in, the annexation, tomorrow night would be the time to come if you have a comment about it. Okay, that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Just a real quick question. You were able to get that grant for Crow's Landing for Bonita, the pool. I just wondered if you heard anything back from your community. They got to be pretty darn happy about that.
Oh, yeah, no, they're happy. There was an article in the West Side Index published about it, and there was some community members that were quoted in there. They're happy because that park's really been closed for a decade, and it's been kind of half abandoned. There was a little bit around the pool that you could use, but it was all fenced off. So they're very happy about it there.
That's great.
$756,000, that's a lot of money for that little park, and that's way more than that community would ever be able to raise, even with help of the Lions Club and Rotary combined. I mean, it couldn't even come close to that. So they're happy about it, and this was a competitive grant. We had to compete against other communities all throughout the state. And I think there was 21 million, I think, was awarded in the second phase of the grant. There was a proposition on the ballot for parks. And so there's one more phase yet coming. And I know Grayson wants to submit, a proposal too, but, we have to compete statewide. So this one in Crow's Landing was the only one that was given out to Stanislaus County. They're hard to get because they're competitive, and there's a lot of need for parks, especially in small communities that really, some of them don't have any parks or any playground equipment or an abandoned park that was in like Crow's Landing. So I know the community's very happy about it, and so is the county. We're just glad to be able to get it, because it's, you just never know. You write your proposal and do the best you can on it and just hope for the best. But we were successful on that. Actually, our county's been actually pretty good in securing grants. We got a grant for Fairview Park about 2 years ago, and one for Parkland Park with South Modesto. And they were for a substantial amount of money, and they rehabilitated the entire park. And in one park, they put in a bathroom which was closed and burned down for years. And we like to have our parks, nice, because it's good for the community to have parks. It's a good place for families to go or play sports. And I go to the Parks Commission meeting almost every month, where we work on these things and try and come up with priorities and funding to rehabilitate the parks. So this is just a great thing for Crow's Landing. We're certainly glad that we got the grant. So,
Well, thank you.
okay.
Thanks. And with that, we'll move on to item 12, item from the city manager and staff.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. As Jim mentioned, tomorrow night I'll be skipping out on most of Game 2 of the World Series to go to LAFCO, but we've been working on that one for about 7 years, so probably takes no precedent over my Astros. But as Jim mentioned, it'll be phase 1 of the Northwest Newman project. We did get a favorable read on the staff report from staff at LAFCO. We believe they're supportive. We've worked with them a lot throughout this process to comply with the policies of LAFCO. We scaled it back with respect to we're phasing it so that way no premature conversion of ag land, and the ag lands continue to have access to good water until it's time for them to convert. This is an important project because if you've been reading the newspaper lately, our governor wants the state to build between 500 and 700,000 houses a year. Like 3.5 million houses in the next 5 to 7 years is what he wants. And so, there's only 430 cities, so you can do the math real quick on how many that adds up to be. And so, we need to get infrastructure out there so we can have this land available. This project, as you know, is approximately 1,200 residential units. But more importantly, as you know, this has the potential to create over 2,000 jobs in our community. So it's important that we get that business park and that community commercial up and operational so we can start capturing some of this job generation that's occurring here on the west side. So I'll be heading on over there to do the presentation. It's at 6 p.m. at 10:10. But not anticipating too bad a meeting. Again, we got staff. It's just going to depend because it's an inhabited annexation. If more than 25% of the registered voters protest tomorrow, then it'll go to a protest hearing. And then if they get over 50% of the registered voters protested, then it will not move forward. So, but we'll see how it goes from there. But we think we got a very good project, and we think it'll move forward. With that, the other thing we're doing is just this month, we're spending a lot of time on some grant applications. I know Catherine and I have been working on some wetlands restoration grants, some parklands out there on the LID project, as well as the project that actually cleans up our storm drainage system out there on that 100 acres. So putting together some plans out there. I think all told, we'll be probably applying for excess of $5 million on all these grants that are going out there. We'll also be applying for some park grants here in the real near future, as well as a planning grant of up to $160,000 going to allow us to update our zoning ordinance and also prepare a infrastructure financing plan that'll help us in our Northwest Newman project. These are funds through the state that, again, they're going to be housing oriented, so that's why we're looking at the infrastructure financing plan out there to hurry up and try to get that infrastructure in the ground so that we can move forward with developing jobs in our community and then the housing that's going to follow that. So with that, I can answer and entertain any questions that you may have.
Could you talk a little bit and mention to the council at our meeting we had with 2-on-2?
Yeah, so we had a 2-on-2 meeting last week, and it was just Superintendent Philpott and the two members brought us to their high school campus. As you know, they're moving forward with a bond measure in March. And it sounds like the first phase of the bond money is going to go towards some athletic facilities, including a new gym and locker room or locker rooms, probably rehab the gym and another like a wrestling room, new tennis courts, and then they have identified that they would like to build a pool out there as well. They're kind of working with their architects right now on some renderings, and then they would like to meet with you as a council again on a joint meeting between the council and the board, probably toward the end of this year or early next year. Did I miss anything? Council member?
I'm sorry?
Did I miss anything?
No, that was pretty much it,
Okay.
Mike.
Thank you.
Michael.
Great. Okay, that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay.
Ellie, do you have anything for us tonight? No more farmer's market
Forever?
till the spring.
That's correct. Evening, Mayor, council members. Touching subject on the farmers markets, we had a successful 4 weeks of fall harvest markets. Ms. Carrie's out here in the public to help me out a lot as Chamber has joined teams with the city and working together. She is a part of the chamber and she helped tremendously as well as the chamber helped me and vice versa. We had a total of 26 booths out there at one time. It always varied between 19 to 26, but we went out like a blast. I would say every booth did really well, especially the food booths. Our community enjoys different types of foods in our area, I've noticed. So that was a big hit. Our craft vendors also did well. We have some coming back and stating that they're even coming back for our Christmas tree lighting. We are taking applications. The chamber's actually taking applications downstairs at State Farm for the craft and food booths. If you're interested, please contact them. They also have now made a Facebook and a whole different social media account where we can follow them. Instead of following the city how we were doing it at once, we will still promote information out there, but it will all be going to the chamber now, as they are going to try to build their business up, or the chamber up. But it went well. I want to thank the vendors, the community, the departments who were all out there helping me every single Friday, the council for allowing this to happen, and Public Works who did a lot out there from giving me, barricades to making sure the facilities were clean, bathrooms were in good use, and trash cans. Everything went well. I'm looking forward to next year in May time to try to stay away from the heat, May, and then another fall harvest market. Now turning around and talking to Michael Holland and the chamber and working that together. Turning gears, soccer, last week of the season is coming up here Friday. It's been a successful 2 months of soccer. 500 kids, 38 teams playing all on one day at Barrington has been a little bit tight, but a great success. It's been everything from facility usage to fields. Everything has been great. Another kudos to Public Works, who's been helping us immensely out on those fields. Basketball has finalized for our signups as well. We have ended basketball signups. We are still accepting a few wait listers in case, they came in at the last moment for whatever reason. We will have a clinic in November. Practices start in December, and games will start January 11th on the Saturday, playing at 2 different gyms. Now turning gears to what's happening in the future. I am working currently on a homeschool program for January time, tentatively starting in January. If anybody's interested, they can gain more information from me or the Recreation Department. We are a part of the wellness showcase for the high school, so we will be out there tomorrow. We also are a trunk or treat booth. Please come on out. We will be representing the city and the city of Newman and the Recreation Department, so I will take both of those on, as well as all my volunteers and staff members. And then the Christmas tree lighting, we are also working head to head with the chamber to get that going and apply for all that you have to come. So with that, I can answer any questions.
What do you do in your spare time?
Well, I'm here most of it, so
Sounds like you enjoy
Excellent.
what you do.
thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Holly.
Thank you.
Appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, and thank you to the chamber, too.
Yes, absolutely.
If you need anyone to do barbecue, we're ready. Okay. Lou, do you have anything tonight for us?
I didn't have anything in particular. I was happy to hear that the audits went well across the whole county. That's always good.
Yeah.
But happy to answer any questions you might have on anything.
Any questions? Thank you, Lou. Catherine?
I just want to be brief, but wanted to let everyone know, kind of expanding on what city manager mentioned about applying for the grants, and one of them is a Prop 68 recreational trail and greenway grant. And part of that grant process requires us to do public outreach, and we have done several surveys at the last 3 community events, and we've shown a lot of interest in natural habitats, natural restored wetlands, jogging and walking trails, and so there's going to be a lot more public outreach and some workshops, so we could do some design charrettes as we get farther into it, to really get the community involved and get their input on design features of what we're going after. Thank you.
Great. I got a question. Sure. Sherman Park, is there anything going on there? They're redoing the field, or?
So Sherman Park, and thank you, Ally, for moving soccer to Barrington. We have been staying off Sherman Park. It's undergoing a rehabilitation effort. We've got equipment that's going to get rid of holes, gopher holes, mounds. We've been treating for gophers over the last few months to get rid of the living gophers. There's going to be the red bud trees planted along Hills Ferry side of Sherman Park. And then we'll be reseeding and fertilizing after we get rid of all those humps and just some additional beautification. It's really important to switch up soccer and get them off there every other year, because it kind of lets the park recover. If you played a soccer game on your lawn every day, every Saturday for 10 weeks, you would destroy a spot in your lawn as well. So it's a combination. I wanted to thank the 49er football organization as well, our little football players, because they helped us as well by moving to another park. And so it's just a huge community effort to try to get the parks to really stay in good shape, and moving people around really helps us. And so I appreciate everybody's effort on getting that. And so hopefully you'll see some nice improvements out there quickly. I can't give you an exact timeline because we're actually hanging Christmas decorations right now, because that's coming quickly. And so I can't nail perfecto down, but he assures me that we're on everything. So I'll give you another update at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Keith, do we have anything?
Yeah, I want to draw your attention, the police chief isn't here, so remember, we dock pay, right? I'm just wanted to,
You're covering both
in case you missed
bases
him.
tonight.
No.
No, that's what I heard. The chief told me.
Okay, in that case, reduce PD's budget. That's our recommendation.
Whoa.
You said I could.
That.
No? All right, forget it.
But thank you.
Anyways, council and mayor, we'll be also at the Newman Crow's Landing Unified Health and Wellness Showcase tomorrow, so you'll see one of our beautiful red fire engines out there. So stop on by, say hi. Bill should be there, our fire inspector, so he'll have a lot of good information. With that, just remind you guys, change the batteries in your smoke detectors. Clocks are going to be changing soon, so go ahead and start now, and then, you got a question?
No, I just bought a couple, and they said they're good for multiple years, and I was just wondering what your thought is on that.
No, that's perfect. So they're actually transitioning from replaceable batteries to permanent batteries, so after 10 years, you just replace the whole detector. Yeah. No, that's the new thing. So yeah, perfect. Yep, you're trendy right now. You're ahead of the game.
But if you do have batteries, you need to change them.
Please, yes, replace them. Yep, it's time to replace them. Good. And disaster council meeting tomorrow. We'll be out there in Modesto. If you guys have any questions, you can direct them to me, or Councilmember Day will be out there. We'll also be at Trunk or Treat at the end of the month, so come on out, take a look at the trunk of the fire prevention officer. He's going to set something up, give out some candy, and then we'll be out there greeting people as they come into the event. We did a presentation at the Newman Co-op preschool. So we did that today for approximately 15 little kiddos, so it was fun. You might have saw us out there running around the park with them. And then the PSPS, they're planning to do more of those PG&E, public safety shut-offs. They're coming, but not to our area, so you'll probably see some news about that. It seems to be more of the mountain ranges. Other than that, I can answer any questions you guys might have.
Thank you. You see anything tonight?
Board members from the West Side Niners actually asked me to pass on a thank you to the city and the Public Works for helping them with the field and having it ready and assisting them with all their needs along that way. And then for the people that came and spoke about your problems within your neighborhood, we'll pass it on to the chief, but also get out there, if you guys have a problem, call in, report it. It's important, and just don't let it go and live with it. Report it and things can be done. It's a process sometimes.
Roy, do you have anything?
Yeah, and I'll sort of piggyback on what Councilman Case has said in terms of the noise ordinance. I kind of keep up with the neighborhood online and kind of answer some of the questions that were thrown out there. And I think you might have been one of the people I said come out and let your voice be heard. I'm glad that you come out, and it's good that we have participation. And I will, sort of, stress the point that we need more people to, that old saying, when you see something, say something. Because if you don't, the process of that just continues. So in saying that, I'm glad that you've come out and stressed the point, and I'm hoping that we can take care of that in the future. That's all I have there.
Well, thank you. Nick, do you have anything tonight?
Nothing tonight.
Just comment about the disaster planning. Chief and I were at a meeting last week with the local fire chiefs and all, and they did their updates and so forth. PSP was a subject that was near and dear to their hearts. Nobody is happy with PG&E's actions. I'm not going to put words in the chief's mouth, but it was obvious from the meeting in general that nobody, including the other utilities, were happy at all with the outcome of the PG&E action. And if the state doesn't take action soon with PG&E, we're going to have a real problem. So, other than that, everybody enjoy your Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Ray. Yeah, I love PG&E.
Oh, you're non-pop.
Anyway.
You're all by yourself.
No, I don't love PG&E. I think, people's lives have been disrupted, and I work for a company. One of our plants was shut down for 3 days, and so loss of pay to a lot of people that work, and no consideration. So, yeah, I love PG&E. And anyway, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. It's really important that you do come to the council's meeting. We can stand the heat, and we want to know what's going on. We hear the same things, we put up with noise sometimes, and maybe we should be calling the police and telling them, do something about it. But anyway, we're certainly going to look into it and see if we can get this back where it should be, where people can enjoy their backyards without their neighbor destroying their fun. So anyway, thank you for coming out.
Thank you, sir.
And with that, I'd like to ask for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you so much.